Isolationism will emerge from the crisis. Countries will stop looking outside and focus on their own citizens. We will see repatriation of people and businesses, and there will be a dark period of global trade. So first I said isolationism will emerge. Isolationism is when a country stops actively trading with other countries. They have a lot of new tariffs and import laws, and they don't get involved with other countries' issues. So before World War I, America was an isolationist country. And then I said, we will see repatriation. So repatriation is when people who live abroad, who are citizens, come back to their home country. So in this case, in the United States, a lot of Korean Americans or Koreans living in America repatriated back to Korea during the coronavirus. And I said there will be a dark period of global trade. A dark period is kind of like the dark ages. It's a slow time of the economy and not an active time for trading. Less trade and international business is to be expected from the aftermath of the coronavirus. Protectionism will emerge as the new norm for many countries. So in that last sentence, I said protectionism. So certain economies around the world are protectionist societies. So for example, Korea and Japan, they are very protectionist against agricultural products. They don't want rice coming in from another country to drop down the rice rates to protect the rice farmers in their countries, and will emerge as the new norm. Recently, we've been talking about this expression, but the new norm means what will be normal now, but was not normal in the past. Governments will expand their power when it comes to healthcare and the economy. Invasive measures by the governments will limit people's freedom and could possibly lead to a system where nations become socialized. So I said invasive measures by the government. So if something is invasive, that means it's going inside. If you have invasive surgery, that means they're going to have to cut you open and you're going to have to stay in the hospital. But if a government is being invasive, that means they're kind of looking into your personal life, your movements. Also, like an invasive question could be, how much money do you make? That's kind of a very personal question, but invasive means people are coming inside your home, inside your personal life, and even your body. And in the last sentence, I said it would lead to a system where nations become socialized. So it's more of a socialist system. So if something becomes socialized, that means the government takes control over something. So if the government decides to take over the cell phone company, that means the system has been socialized. Government expansion is inevitable in all areas of society. These changes will infringe on civil liberties and the people will have less freedom. So government expansion is inevitable in all areas of society. So if something is inevitable, means it's going to happen if you like it or not. For example, death is inevitable. We're not going to live forever. We will die, we don't know when, but it is inevitable. And I said these changes will infringe on civil liberties. So your civil liberties are your right to vote, your right to free speech. Wherever you live, it's your kind of your personal rights that you have in society. But if the changes will infringe on civil liberties, that means it will disrupt it. So the government says, well, you can't go out, or you can't say this online, or you can't report fake news. That's an infringement of a civil liberty. China's reputation will be even worse after the coronavirus crisis. Hiding the truth behind the bamboo curtain has hurt their image. Other countries will choose to take their business elsewhere. All right, so I said they're hiding their truth behind the bamboo curtain. So a long time ago, when Russia was a communist country, we called Russia the Iron Curtain. And they had a curtain which kind of blocked what you could see from the outside. They were very secretive. They didn't let anyone in. They didn't let anyone out. So we called it the Iron Curtain. It was just this kind of intangible feeling or force of Russia. But since China has bamboo, China is somewhat similar. They don't let information out. They don't let information in. Everything's controlled. We're not really sure what's going on, so we call it the bamboo curtain. So it means what China is hiding. And other countries will choose to take their business elsewhere. So if someone takes their business elsewhere, it means they're using or buying the same product. They're just buying it from somewhere else. So for example, if you're going to sell apples and your apples are rotten, someone will take their business elsewhere. It means they'll go to the next store. So taking your business elsewhere is kind of a warning or just a saying we use when someone shops in another place for the same product. There is a greater stigma against China now more than ever. The international community has seen their opaqueness. Foreign interests will slowly pull back and investments and even divest from China entirely. So I said there's a greater stigma against China. A greater stigma against China means just more of a negative feeling. And then I said, the international community has seen their opaqueness. So if something is opaque, it is the opposite of clear or transparent. So if someone's being opaque, that means they are being kind of cloudy. You really can't see what they're doing. And finally, I said, even some countries will divest from China entirely. So for example, a few weeks ago, China says they're starting to divest from China. That means they will no longer invest, they will take their money out. Physical contact and personal space will change. Working from home will be the new normal. Businesses will focus on technology to communicate virtually. And from now on, avoid people being in proximity. So I first want to talk about personal space. So personal space, we usually talk about as a distance between people, and it differs between each culture. And the way we measure it is usually by an arm length. So for example, if you say, how much personal space are you comfortable with? If you stick out your arm with your fingers, you would say 1 arm length. Or if you're close to someone, you might say half an arm length. So, a lot of times in America, we like a lot of personal space, but in the Middle East, they kind of talk very close and touch each other. So they don't mind less personal space. And then I said later that companies are going to focus on communicating virtually. So since the coronavirus, you've seen like a boom in Skype and Zoom. That is or learning online. It's all we're calling like virtual technology or virtual learning. So we're talking about that now a lot. So if you want to communicate virtually, that means we're communicating like video online. And finally, people avoid people being in proximity. Proximity is another word for distance. So if you are in close proximity to a Starbucks, that means you are living near a Starbucks. Or, now we stay away 2 meters from each other. That's the proximity we need to stay away. So that is not close proximity. The way we will communicate and socialize will be different. Cyber commuting will be more popular. Limiting physical contact will become a priority for most businesses. So I said cyber commuting. So we use a few words for this. So cyber commuting is working on your computer. Originally, we said telecommuting because you would be on your telephone. We still use that now. So we use cyber commuting and telecommuting. We also say working from home or working at home. So we use those 4 ones interchangeably.